Hey, 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 how's everyone doing? I hope you're doing well. We're about to get started here in just a second. So let me go ahead and remove that countdown and we'll get going. Right now, it looks like we've got John from New Jersey and also Ken from Oklahoma. If you're here and I didn't mention your name, then by all means go ahead and tell me where you're watching from in the chat, and I would love to welcome you. So let me make sure that I start my recording here. So it's a little rainy day here in Kentucky. I'm just outside of Lexington, Kentucky. I know that's not the hugest place, but it's where I'm coming to you from. So great to have everyone that can join us here live and those that are watching the replay later. So, by the way, couple quick things. First off, if the image looks blurry to you, in the lower right hand corner there is a gear icon. Click on that and change the resolution, because I am sending it out at 1080p. So unless you're on a 4K display that isn't very good at upscaling, chances are that's what's going on. It could be also that you just don't have the bandwidth to handle it, but I'm sending a good quality signal, so that should be good. Secondly, make sure that you're interacting with the chat. That will help me guide the way that we go here. So far, I know that Ken has been using ProPresenter for a while. Don't know about John yet. So I'd love to know where you are along the pipeline, because I've got some basic things that maybe people didn't know that ProPresenter can do, and some more advanced things, and we'll go along the spectrum, as many as I can get in the time that we have. So let me go ahead over to my computer and we'll talk about that. So let me real quick clear this out and we'll get started. And as you might guess, I'm using ProPresenter to teach about ProPresenter. So first off, this is things you didn't know that ProPresenter could do. And if you don't know already, I am the creator of over 1,000 YouTube church tech tutorials. Former writer for Church Production Magazine on live streaming, and creator of the official ProPresenter users group that has over 53,000 users. Oh, hi Chris, you're my neighbor practically. I'm in Nicholasville. So welcome to Chris from Lexington. Also, I am the creator of the ProPresenter 7 Hacks, Tips, and Tricks course, which is where I got a lot of this information from. That's exclusive within my my ProPresenter Church Tech training community, Church Tech U. So, looks like Pro 7's being a little slowish today, so we'll see if that's some stuff that I need to talk about. But here are, oops. So let me go back and see if I can show you all the things that I could cover if we have enough time. Okay, here we go. So controlling other stuff with Companion, multi-view, augmenting your multi-view, being a switcher, that's something that ProPresenter can do, grabbing live video from iPhones, playing 3 videos at once, formatting CCLI for different displays, live streaming, recording, environmental projection, interactive games, picture-in-picture, downstream keying, doing alpha with Blackmagic devices hardware, or now that we're on 7.14 without Blackmagic devices hardware, making a simplified use with companion arrangements, the Reflow editor, that's one I will definitely talk about. Automating Pro 7 with Ableton Live, putting different props, messages, CCLI videos on different screen, syncing lights, and using timecode to sync things. So there's quite a lot that we can cover. And the first thing that I always want to cover when we're talking about things that you didn't know that ProPresenter could do is the Reflow editor. So here, let me get out of ProPresenter. This is one of those things that I love it so much that I've actually made a t-shirt. I'm not wearing it today, but when I did present on this at the Wave conference in Louisville a couple of weeks ago, I did. And the t-shirt basically says, it will change your life, and then it has the keyboard shortcut for what I'm about to show you in the Reflow editor. So let's head back up here to this playlist, and I'm going to select Amazing Grace here. Give this just a second to get there. And so here we are in Amazing Grace, and you'll notice that all of these have basically 1 to 2 lines, so not a whole lot there. So what if your worship pastor comes to you and said, as it turns out, you know how we've got everything as 2 lines? We really want that to be 4. Now, if you're doing this the old-fashioned way, when you hear that strikes terror in your heart, quite frankly, because that's like a half an hour's worth of work. Because you're going to copy, paste, and delete slides in order to make it happen. And you really hope you don't put it up there and then next service the worship leader says, oh yeah, totally wrong. That was a stupid idea. We need to go back to 2. Unless you know about the Reflow editor. So let me show you about that. If you go up here at the top where it says Show, then Edit, then Reflow, we're going to click on Reflow. And notice how it has the words here along the left-hand side, text only. And then on the right it has thumbnails. So watch these thumbnails as I do what I'm about to show you. So I'm going to click where I want to combine 2 slides. So in the second of the 2 slides that I want to combine, then I'm going to hit the backspace button if it was on a Windows keyboard, or the delete button that's in the upper right hand corner on a Mac keyboard. So I hit that, and bam, it's combined those 2 slides into one. Let me continue on and do that again, and continue on and do that again. So there we go. We've got verses 1, 2, and 4 showing because I had an arrangement. I've got a tag here that's by itself, but anyway, so I've done that really quickly. I could go through even a long song and in less than 5 minutes just be totally done with it. So it's a much faster process. But you might be thinking, well, what about the opposite? What if I have 4 lines, but I want it to be 2 lines? Well, no problem. Click your cursor where you want that to be, and there's a button down here at the bottom that says Insert Slide Break. You click that, and it splits the slide at that point. But you can do it even faster if you know the keyboard shortcut for Insert Slide Break. So let's click that there, and on the Mac OS, it is Option Return. On Windows, I believe it's Control Enter. It might be Alt Enter. I sometimes forget that one because I don't use Windows nearly as much as I use Mac OS. So you can see that I went from 2 lines to 4 lines, back to 2 lines just really, really quickly. So that is the first thing that you can do, and that will absolutely change your life if you're used to copying and pasting and inserting new slides and then deleting old slides and all that jazz. Don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the first thing that you may not have known that ProPresenter can do. The second one, I just released this tutorial last Tuesday. If you're not on my YouTube channel, go ahead and head over to youtube.com/Paul Clifford, subscribe, click the little bell icon, you know, all that jazz. And then you can get access to, I've got, I think if I'm remembering correctly, 181 ProPresenter 7 tutorials alone. So plenty of information there, and you can head there. Well, the one that I released Tuesday was all about arrangements. So if above your song you click on the third icon in the right hand side here, the one that looks like two arrows going opposite directions with boxes in between, this is arrangements. So by default we have the master arrangement, which has everything you could possibly ever use in a song. I'm not saying you're, oh, hi PFC from Cleveland, Ohio, good to have you. I'm not saying, by the way, that you will ever sing this song like this. What I'm saying is, when you import a song, you should bring in every last piece and part to the song should you need it in some sort of configuration. Now you'll notice that I've only got a single tag here. I don't have any choruses. That's because this is Amazing Grace, but that is kind of the master arrangement. Down here there's a drop down. I've got 3 arrangements right here. I'm going to show you how to create one. I'm going to click on New Arrangement, and then you can call it based on which worship leader or music minister tends to sing it that way. I've seen people do that. Also, I've seen long and short if you just tend to do the same song a couple of different ways. I've also seen, what I'm going to show you how to do is just make it as descriptive as possible. So I'm going to do V1, V2, V4, comma, and tag. So we're going to create that. 1, 2, 4 and tag. Well, you'll notice that it basically creates an exact copy of the groups up here from the master. And I did not list verse 3 here. So I'm going to click on the little X right here. And I didn't talk about verse 5, so I'm going to click on that X. If I clicked on 4 by mistake and, oh no, I actually want 4, I can just grab it from up here and drag it down. And it adds it all. And this all happens live. So that's a very useful thing. You'll also notice that as I select stuff, it highlights which part of the song that I'm on. So there we go on that. Sorry, I've got a little horsiness going on here today. So that's very helpful. That using arrangements makes it so you don't have 5 versions of the same song where the only difference is what verses and choruses that you're going to sing. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the groups up here in the master arrangement, every time that you repeat something, so if I wanted to do verse 2 again, it's just referencing this verse 2. So any changes you make on this verse 2 in this arrangement will show up at this verse 2 and back at the master, because it's all referencing the one at the master. So I've seen people from time to time say, oh yeah, I just want this final verse 2, I'm just going to disable this so that it doesn't because we only want to sing this one slide. But you'll notice right here it disabled that as well. So the reason is, as I say, there's only one verse 2 up here. So it's just referencing both of those. Well, both of those are just referencing the one. So that's important. If you did want to do that, by the way, you could create a new tag or a new vamp or a new whatever label made sense for it. Or actually, it's a group. Whatever group name made sense for it. You could even have a temporary one. But that's how you would get around that problem. If you wanted to add an additional something onto the end, you know, maybe there's a chorus and throughout most of the song it's going to have 4 lines in the chorus, and then the very last repeat, it's going to repeat the last 2 lines again. Well, you might add a tag that's only those 2 lines. So those are a couple of the strategies for getting around that. If you want to delete any of these arrangements, go into Arrangement Master right here, select the arrangement, and then hit Delete. And that should do it, but apparently it's being a little slow today. So could also be that I've got about 1 billion Chrome tabs open, so we won't necessarily blame ProPresenter. Could also hit this minus key. Yeah, that's probably a better way to do it. Now, to rename one, I can right-click on, so I can select. Yep, can't right-click. Sorry, I remembered that incorrectly. You need to click twice, but slowly, not a double click. Just click, then click again. So, there you go. So Ken's saying, I have 11 arrangements of How Great Thou Art. We still have people singing solos for special music, and each person has their own track and arrangement. So I created an arrangement with their name. There you go. Well, How Great Thou Art is one of those kind of standards. So it makes perfect sense to me that you would have different arrangements for different people, different tracks that go with it, etc. So, yep. Absolutely, that's a great use of arrangements. So I'm happy that you're finding good use for them, because when I first started using ProPresenter back in ProPresenter 3 days, I can't remember if they didn't have arrangements or I just didn't know about them. But either way, the problem that I ran into was exactly the one that I was telling you about. You know, we do one song a couple of different ways, and I'd end up with a couple of different versions of the exact same song in the library. And in your case, you'd end up with 11 versions of the exact same song in the library, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it does make it kind of hard to quickly grab the one song that you're looking for if you need to grab it really, really quickly. You know, they add it last minute, or you forgot to add it in time, something like that. If you had 11 versions of How Great Thou Art, then you could accidentally grab the short one when you really need the long one, and it just makes it more difficult than it needs to be. So that's another downside of that. So that's another thing that we can do in ProPresenter. One thing I do want to point out while we're here is you see these little letters up in the upper left-hand corner. These are called hotkeys. And a hotkey is basically, it gives you the ability to, with a single button press, jump to that slide. So we are on this one down here. If I want to go back up to this one right here, well, I could click on it, or I could type the number and hit enter. But if you know how Renewed Vision set these up, you don't even have to do that. You can just remember that verse 1 is A, verse 2 is S, verse 3 is D, verse 4 is F, and so on. So G and H, by the way, are other letters. T for tag, you see that one there. So you can jump to them very quickly. So this past Sunday, this happened where our band was singing. I was directing. I wasn't running ProPresenter, but the ProPresenter operator was right beside me. And so I'm directing, and I hear from the producer that the guy that's singing skipped a verse. And I say, hey, Karen, he skipped a verse. So real quick, Karen can know, okay, if he skipped a verse and we're getting ready to go into the chorus, then I can just jump ahead to the chorus and not do that verse. So in general, what I tell people is, doesn't matter whether the Holy Spirit was moving in your church and therefore leading the worship leader to skip a verse, or as in our case this time, he just forgot where he was. Wasn't looking at the stage screen, forgot where he was, and just skipped ahead. Either way, it's the same exact situation to us as ProPresenter operators, because we don't know that's going to happen. And so since we don't know that that's going to happen, it's helpful to be able to skip real quickly. Just to, while I'm talking about this, to remember this, if you look at your keyboard, you probably can't make this out, but starting right here, this is the home row of keys if you're a touch typist, the one there in the middle. Starting right there with A, that's verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4, verse 5, verse 6. So there are 6 verses here that have hotkeys, A through G, or H rather. And if you are looking for your bridges, that bridge starts with B, so that's bridge 1. Bridge 2 is N, just to the right of it, and bridge 3 is M, to the left of it. Choruses, chorus starts with C, and we want 3 of those as well. But if we went to the right, we'd run into the bridges. So in this case, we're going to go to the left. So it's C, X, and Z, or Z if you're Canadian or British. Basically, if you speak English outside of America, then it's Z. But those are just some quick keyboard shortcuts for you to remember. When it comes to this, just makes it really fast to jump between things if you need to. So you can also just type in the number, let's say slide 10, 1, 0, enter. And that takes you right there. Slide 1 is 1, enter. Pretty simple. The reason you need the enter is because there could be 100 slides. There could be 10 slides, as in this case. And since there are 10, if it worked when I just typed in 1, then how would it know to wait for the 0 in 10? So that's why it does that. And you can always click on the keyboard or use the right arrow key or the space bar. I typically use the space bar to advance stuff. So something else that ProPresenter can do. Let me go back to my list because actually, I think I just remembered that. So we're coming off of the summer. So it could be that you recently ran into an issue. Here we go. You recently ran into an issue where you were doing Vacation Bible School. And so as the children are singing in front, they're doing hand gestures. And there's a video that goes along with them doing the hand gestures that actually has the music. So that's one video. But what if the adults that are leading from the front, because we don't remember things as well as kids do, we need the hand gesture video to be playing at exactly the same time. So 2 videos. But what if you're also live streaming and you don't want to obscure the cute kids' faces, but you do want the words at the bottom, but that's a different video? So you need to play 3 videos at the exact same time. So how would you go about doing that? Well, let me show you. So this is actually something that I've got set up right now. I'm going to go through and get rid of some of this stuff so that we can actually, I'll just add another slide, and that will enable me to show it to you. So I'm going to go down to add new blank slide. So I've done that there. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a video to the slides layer itself. So let's find one that I can add. Let's see, where did I put it? Ah, there. Okay, so let's start with this kind of light blue video as one of the videos that we're going to play. And you'll see that I drug it onto the slide. Well, this icon indicates that it's a background. I told you that I was going to add it to the slides layer. Now, while I could right-click, edit, and add the media in the slides layer, a little trick is to right-click and go down to Convert Media Action to Slide Element. Click on that, notice the icon goes away. It is now actually on the slides layer. So if I right click and edit the slide, you'll notice it's right here. Just like a text box is, it's right there. So that's one of the 3 videos. Now let me play another video, and I'm just going to drag that from down here and put that there. And that's the second video. That's on the media layer. Notice that the icon showed up right there. And now I need a third video. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to hide myself real quick. Go over here to props. And I'm going to add a prop. So I click the little plus button, and you can see that I did this already, but we're going to do 3RD just so that it's different. Right click on it, edit, and click and media, and it's going to ask me for some media. And let me go to where that media is stored here. I think this is the one that I wanted. Yeah, that's it. So now I'm going to click open. It's going to ask me if I want to use the existing version. I'm going to say yes, because I know that it's identical in every way to this. So there we go. Now I need to tell it to actually play that. So I'm going to right click, go down to add action, and go down to props and then third, which is the one that I just created. Now, this is going to play videos instantaneously on those three layers, but how can I display them on different screens? Well, you may already know the answer. If we go up here, upper right hand corner, where this little disguise looking guy, I call it Groucho Marx glasses, where that is, we're going to click on that and go down to edit looks. And I've already done this here for the 3 video one. So basically what I've done is I've disabled props on these 2, and actually I'm going to disable the announcements layer on that and disable props and messages on this screen because that's the one that I'm using off to the side here, this one. So basically this one is showing props, and then this one is showing, sorry, this one is showing the media layer, and this one is showing the slides layer because they're on top of one another. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna clear everything but the announcement layer there. And now, so audience isn't showing anything, alpha isn't showing anything, and the main out isn't showing anything. It's got a colored background, but it's not showing anything other than that. So now as soon as I click on this, so there was a little bit of a pop there, but this one is showing here. Then if I go to alpha, that one is showing, or should be showing. Oh, I didn't actually change the look. So let me click on 3 videos. That's probably why I got that little pop there. Let me go ahead and I'm going to clear everything out and show it to you again. So now I click on this, and this one shows that. This screen shows this, and this other one, the main out one here, shows that, and they all started at exactly the same time. So you just have to make sure that you do in fact change it to the appropriate look. An easy thing to forget, one thing you could also do is right click on this and add an action to change the audience look to the 3 video look. So that way you don't even have to remember to make sure that you have changed that. You just click on that and then it automatically will change everything and show up correctly. So that's another good use of Pro 7. So let's see here. We have covered, right click, the Reflow editor. We've covered arrangements. We've covered playing 3 videos at once. Let me talk to you about environmental projection, which I'm just going to talk about real quick. If you've ever seen videos online of Disney World where they project something on Cinderella's castle at night, or sometimes you'll see this done in other situations where basically you're projecting onto a surface, but you want to mask out certain parts. Well, you can mask in ProPresenter 7. Now, it's not going to do any of the advanced work of mapping it onto a 3D object necessarily, but a good example of when you might want to use this is, it might be scary to say, but soon it will be Christmas, sooner than we want to think about it. And maybe you've got an Easter program, and instead of building a set, if you have, you could rent some projectors and use those projectors edge blended to cover the entire front of your sanctuary. But anywhere that you want to mask off, like maybe where the regular screens are, then you could use the masks layer in ProPresenter 7. So we can click up here, upper right hand corner once again, go to Edit Looks, And then this very top layer here where it has the what I call the Ghostbusters sign, if you click on that, and you can add a new mask. And then once we've added that new mask, mask 1 is it, then you can click on the plus here and add a shape. So we could add that. Let's say that's the size that it needs to be for the screen that you're masking out, etc. So you could absolutely do that in ProPresenter. Also, by the way, maybe not a lot of people know this, but if you go down to Shape and Custom, you can actually draw like you do in Photoshop with the pen tool, including, if you hold, let's see here. Close that path. I can right click, make editable, and then I can go in to any of these and tweak them as I need to, so that I can make my shape exactly the way that I need it to be. So something else there. Also, if I can remember how to do it, you can actually add Bezier curves as well. So maybe click and hold down. Yep, so click, hold down, and change it, and notice you've got your handles there. So you've got that flexibility as well when you're doing that in ProPresenter. So that would be how to do environmental projection in ProPresenter and mask out things that you don't need to have show up. So let me go back to, let me disable this real quick so I know that I've covered it. Live streaming, you can do a bunch of ways with Pro 7. With Pro 6, there was basically one way to do it, and only on the Mac. So with Pro 7, they've expanded that out. You can send an NDI feed out of ProPresenter to other software, either on the same computer or another computer. If you're on a Mac, you can send Siphon out to other software on the same Mac. You can also have another video output that's formatted differently. But one thing that I was excited about with 7.1, so this is way back, probably February or March of 2020, is up here, upper right hand corner, we can go to Live and go to Capture Settings. And they've refined this further. For example, these presets that you see right up here, they added those with 7.14, so very recently. In fact, when I was teaching on this, it was 7.14 was in beta, and now it is the shipping version along with one bug release, 7.14.1 as well. So I can make new presets, save them, delete them, etc. here, so you don't have to put in information every time you're changing how ProPresenter is set to live stream or record or both. This is your screen that you want to live stream. Notice that you can live stream both audience screens or stage screens. So that's something that I do from time to time, is show a stage screen instead of an audience screen for live streaming. You can do RTMP live streaming, which is kind of generic, or RTMP-S. So it will do the secure version of live streaming that way. You can record it to the disk. If you do that, by the way, you can change what recording codec you want. You can change where you want to save it. You can change the encoding and the audio routing. You can do audio routing for all of them, but you could do that. If you do RTMP, notice you can change the address and the stream key and then how you want it to encode. But if you want to also record while you're doing this, there's this save local copy, and that gives you less options, fewer options rather. So it just is asking where you want to save it to, but it's going to use H.264 just because that's very similar to what we're doing in Resi. So, or sorry, that's similar to what we're doing in the RTMP streaming. So let me go back here to configure screens. So, and the last option here is Resi. And one thing that not a lot of people notice there's no save local copy choice here. Don't know why that is the case, but Resi does save a remote copy. So, and because it's a more resilient, that's why it's called Resi streaming platform, and then that works as well. So those are a few of the things that you can do when it comes to using ProPresenter. Here, let me pause that. When it comes to using ProPresenter to do some other stuff. I will say that I do see Chris's question, and I'll answer that here in just a second. I do want to tell you real quick about this. This is Church Tech U, my online church tech training community, where I'm helping hundreds of churches. And if you go to churchtechu.com, you'll notice, first off, I've got several testimonials from happy Church Tech U members, but the regular price is $99.97 a month. You do save a little with the quarterly and the annual price, but I thought I'd show you behind what's going on here. So when you're a member, you can log in and you have access to the library. And the library includes things like the ProPresenter 7 courses, my other church tech resources, books, etc. Archives of all my live classes going back to 2020. So by itself, we've got probably 150 hours of live classes that are archived, and so on and so on. So this is kind of a picture of the live class. I do one of these nearly every week. If I'm traveling, I do my best to do it, although occasionally the hotel internet prevents it or something like that. But that's what I do every week. 1 hour live class where you can ask your questions just like this. And then you can see the replays. So this is mostly 20. So this is the one that I did very recently. That was a week ago Tuesday. I have to hit save on the one that I just finished editing this morning, actually. So that's gonna upload and be there, left over from Tuesday. So that's in there. And by the way, you can ask your questions just like you're about to do here, and I'm gonna hop in and answer those here in just a second. And then we have the ProPresenter 7 courses specifically, and notice that these, you might think, well, that's not a lot of content there, Paul. That's only like 7 or 8 of those. Well, turns out each of these is a course. It's not a single video, but it's multiple videos. So I usually tell people to start here at the ProPresenter 7 Operators course. This is a great course, and each of these, by the way, is just a few minutes long. So if you've got a few minutes before you're going to lunch, or you get home and you've got a few minutes to kill, you could go through one of these. For example, this one is 15 minutes. The next one, how to navigate slides, is 5.5. So really, they're not very long whatsoever. And so you can go through those, and this would be a great course for people that they just show up on the weekend and they hit the space bar to advance slides. This covers the basics like that, but also, something went wrong. It helps you with situations like that where something went wrong. So that's a great course for that. And I've got, as I say, more advanced courses like the Hacks, Tips, and Tricks course, which we've just scratched the surface of today because we don't have a longer amount of time. So then this is the community where I have challenges that I have for you. I have some places where you could ask your questions through the week, or right after church on the weekend, etc. That's great. This is actually not my regular login. This is what it looks like if you're someone who is a member. So it's not that there are 50 plus questions that I haven't touched. If I was logged in as myself, that wouldn't be the case. But so you can see if I click here. So Julia's been asking a few questions. Merton here had some questions. So Julie asked this 4 days ago, and I answered it the next day. So, pretty quick response time on that. And it's a big enough group that you do get interaction, but not so big that you get a bunch of wrong questions, or wrong answers rather, which can be one of the downsides. So I am offering a sale though. We've got a 7-day trial, so you can hop in Church Tech U, kick the tires, see if it's right for you. And if you decide, I gotta test it out a little bit longer, a total of a 30-day money-back guarantee. So after the 7 days, it charges you. If you still decide a couple days later, yeah, this isn't for me, no big deal. Just let me know. Please, please, please do not dispute any credit card charges, because I'm happy to help. And the disputes cost extra money, sometimes as much as I'm charging you, including this sale price, which is basically 60% off. So you can hop in for 7 days, see if it works for you. $39.97. Oh, by the way, church-wide license. So that's one price for everyone in your church. You can get your pastor on board. You can get the children's ministry so they quit bugging you on Sunday mornings while you're doing other stuff. Or if you're from the children's ministry, so that you don't have to bug someone else while you're trying to figure this out, you can just be empowered to know all of this. And every new member can have their own login. So you get a new volunteer, that's a blessing. It doesn't raise your price whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and paste it into the chat here, and then go through and answer your questions. I think Phyllis is a member of Church Tech U, so maybe she can speak to what it's like as well, unless it's a different Phyllis. So, so let's see here. Phyllis asked, can you add text to the custom shapes? And the answer to that is, let me get my mouse over here, and so now you can't add text. Well, maybe. Okay. let's go back into that because I don't actually know the answer to that, to something you didn't actually ask, but I'm going to go in here and go into edit masks for that. And here, this custom shape, if I double click on it, yes, I can. So, yeah, you absolutely can. Now, because it's basically a text box the size of a rectangle that encompasses the custom shape, so you'll notice here it's inside that custom shape and it's kind of bled off a little bit. So it is possible to do both in the masks and on the slides layer, so you can absolutely do that. So glad to answer that one. Let me get a drink of water and then I'll ask Chris's question. By the way, Chris, what church are you a part of in Lexington? I'm in Lexington City Church, by the way. Okay, so are there any complications with creating slides for use in a live stream on a Windows PC and then running it on a Mac? I'll tell you the two biggest complications that I see is when people don't have the same fonts in both places. So it gets really complicated when they have similar named fonts, and so if they have like Helvetica and Helvetica, is it Nue, whatever it is. So very similarly named fonts in those two places, and as a result of having the similarly named fonts, it looks a little bit different. So that's complication number one. There are a few minor differences between Pro 7 for Windows and Pro 7 for Mac. The vast majority of the time you're not going to run into those, but for example, one of them is you can send crosstalk commands on the Mac version but not on the Windows version. So that would be a problem if you were making it on the Windows version and you needed to add a crosstalk command. Well, you can't do it. But you could bring it in, export the whole shebang, bring it into the Mac version, and then add that command. So there are a few little things like that. You might actually have the best of both worlds if you think of it that way, because on the Mac version there are additional PowerPoint import abilities that you don't have on Windows. And on Windows, there was something I was thinking of the other day that's a nice advantage of having that. So, you know, you could tweak things going back and forth so that you have it the best of both worlds, is what I'm saying. So the other thing that I've seen is, let's say, like at my church, we have 3 LED walls. An LED wall tends to be in kind of odd resolution. So if I had ProPresenter here set up, my whole system is 1080p, and I was trying to make something up, and I set it up in, and I had the right font and everything, but I didn't have the right screen resolution, that could cause problems in that, you know, if I set it up as 1080p and my LED wall is some odd resolution, then maybe the size of the text boxes and stuff would look a little wonky when I got it to church. So that's another thing for you to consider as well. So Chris is at the source. Awesome. Believe I've heard about it. I think it's a newer church than mine. Mine used to be the new kid on the block when I first started attending there back in 2000, but been there for 23 years and it's no longer the new kid on the block. So, yep, good to hear that. Are there other questions? We've still got a couple of minutes. I could maybe talk about some other stuff. I'm seeing grabbing live video from iPhones there. Let me grab my iPhone. I had it charging over here. So let's see here. If you wanted to use an iPhone as a camera, there is a little app called NDI-HX. There's actually two. There's NDI-HX Capture and NDI-HX Camera. And yes. So got to give it all the permissions here. So if I go to ProPresenter and then settings or preferences, depends on your operating system, and then go to inputs, then and this is with NDI-HX camera on, I'm going to go ahead and click plus here to add a new video input, and I can go down here and look, NDI-HX camera. And once I do that, you'll be able to see through that, and look, we've got like a Wayne's World infinity effect going on there. So that's something else that you can do, and that's of course totally wireless. So that's pretty cool as well. So there we go. And by the way, I mentioned using ProPresenter as a video switcher. So you can add, you saw I had 4 live video sources. I can have those in there. Go down here, lower left-hand corner, video inputs, and add all of those in and click on them to go between them just instantaneously in the case of a cut, or add a transition to do a cross dissolve or something else, although generally I would prefer either cuts or cross dissolves. So Phil says that my live classes on Tuesday nights are very informative! Exclamation point. So I'm glad you think so, Phyllis. Phyllis is one of my members, and she shows up nearly every Tuesday night. She might have better attendance than I do, quite frankly. So she's very faithful when it comes to showing there. And I'm joking, but a couple of weeks ago, because I was doing this class at the Wave conference, I had to miss it because I had Wi-Fi problems. So that would be the exception. Normally it's about 50 weeks a year that I do them live. So there you go. I think assuming that I can get on for the next 2 conferences that I'm doing the next 2 weeks, I'll have, I believe, 50 out of 52 weeks this year that I've done those live classes. So that's how I can quickly do the math in my head of about how many replays we've got available. So oh, Chris said I borrowed a camera from you for our previous pastor's retirement. Yes, yeah, you're looking at me through that camera. So now I remember you're in that, yep, that little shopping center there. And that reminds me, I think that I have your tripod plate still, because you returned my camera with the tripod plate on it. So very cool. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed it all, and I am going to go ahead. I'll save this, I'll get it edited and send a note out to everyone. and then we'll go from there. Once again, I would love to see you inside Church Tech U. As I say, I have an order of magnitude more training than anyone else. Maybe more than everyone else combined. I don't know. I haven't done the math on that. I'm a little hesitant to say more than everyone else, but it might be more than everyone else combined. So I'd love to see you on the inside. I'd love to train you more on ProPresenter, help you get from just being a beginner all the way to the more advanced stuff like I'm helping Phyllis with. And I'd love to see you. So. And Chris goes, oh, that's where it went. Yep. So let me see if I can't track down that tripod plate and get it back to you. Okay. Talk to you all later. Bye.